Hey, there we go. Welcome to the debut of SharePoint TV. My name is Fritz, and I'm joined by
Bill Baer.
Hey, and we're here at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. We're at the SharePoint Conference. We want to talk a little bit about that keynote, Bill. There were a lot of great things that were announced, and we want to share with all those folks that are out there on Twitch watching with us. We want to share some of those demos, some of those things with them, and talk about what we can learn, what we want to do going forward as a SharePoint community. Oh, yeah. This is great, isn't it?
This is super exciting. You know, people that have probably been at past SharePoint conferences remember when we used to do this thing called SPTV, and it's been half a decade. So it's great to see that we have this opportunity to really get out there, talk about some of the stuff we're doing.
Oh, yeah.
And I think one of the things, hopefully we can do throughout the course of the week. Everybody's probably seen the schedule, I hope.
Oh yeah. Or you can see it just below here, just underneath the video is the schedule of all the great folks we have coming through.
So hopefully we can go a little bit deeper on those sessions. Got some great stuff lined up for the week, but the keynote, wow.
Lots of great stuff, right? I love seeing intelligent workplace. What does that mean when you really dig into intelligent workplace?
Yeah, I think when you think about intelligent workplace, it's really this infusion of AI into effectively the fabric of Microsoft 365. Examples of which is we're putting more and more intelligence into security. Whether that's DLP scanning, so we can proactively identify documents that may contain sensitive information and prohibit anonymous sharing, for example. It could be search. And search has kind of been a cornerstone of SharePoint capabilities for a long time, but now we're leveling it up. We're going to bring some more into that. Yeah, if you think about the history of SharePoint search, from its evolution, our acquisition of Yammer, which of course gave us Open Graph, moving. Even before that, our acquisition of Fast, Search and Transfer, and then the Microsoft Graph, the Office Graph, and Delve. So we've been kind of on this journey of that has led us to where we're at today with this concept, we talked about in the keynote, this idea of Microsoft Search, which is really, really cool.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I mean, all of those different features coming together as one. Huge capabilities. And when we talk about adding artificial intelligence into that, right? So search with artificial intelligence, that's a big deal. That's going beyond just we're matching on keywords.
Yeah. That's definitely a big deal, because if you think about it, we're not artificial intelligence allows us to move beyond that. We have a vision of search actually working for you. If you think about what search experiences have been in the past, right? You're putting a query in a search box, you're getting a static set of these blue links, and then you're continually refining that query until you actually find the thing that you were looking for. It's the equivalent of like waking up in the morning, it's like, where did I put my car keys?
Right.
Wouldn't it be great if your house could tell you exactly where they were? Right? And that's kind of what AI and search do.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that we're going to take and make it a little bit more context aware so that we don't become search trained engineers. We don't have to learn and figure out and have that memorized way that we interact with search. Now, you also brought up Yammer, right? And we've got a great Yammer community out there.
Yep, we do.
What are the things that they have to look forward to now?
Yeah, I think one of the really cool things that we announced as kind of a Yammer innovation is really this idea of the answer bot. And the answer bot isn't your typical relatively static kind of Q&A maker type chat bot, right? Where you're providing it the Q&A, you're giving it keywords, and you're effectively training it. That's the kind of innovation. That intervention is still manual. It's human based, human driven.
Great feature for Q&A.
Oh no, it's an absolutely awesome feature, and we actually use it quite a bit. And we'll kind of get there. Another one of our announcements was SharePoint Spaces and some of our mixed reality work, and we're using Q&A on that site to help answer Spaces questions, but we'll get to there.
Oh yeah.
But coming back to the Yammer piece, we've got this answer bot that we're delivering, which is really cool because basically Yammer is all about conversation, right? And part of that conversation is people just looking for things and asking questions like, hey, do you know where I go to do this? Where's the best place to rent a car? Where's the best place to eat in Las Vegas?
Yes.
So What this does is empower the admin to look across all of those responses, mark one as an answer, and effectively just seeds the system that way. So now you know where the best place to eat in Vegas is. I still haven't found it because I haven't eaten since Saturday. So,
we've been so busy running, getting things all set up. My gosh! And when you describe, being able to choose an answer, that makes me think of websites like Stack Overflow. Right? We're familiar with that. Oh, here's my question, and these are the. We're going to vote up different things, but as an administrator, say this is the answer.
That's my go-to place for all my CSS questions.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. And well, CSS, that's one of the components of websites. We've improved SharePoint sites now.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big things we announced today is SharePoint home sites, and SharePoint home sites are just, it's just really awesome. So first of all, SharePoint home sites aren't a new site template, and I think that's one of the things people are probably like, oh no, not another site template. Effectively, what we've done is we've taken the power that we already introduced into this concept we've had called communication sites, and then we've layered on top of that. And by building on top of a communication site, we've added, we've combined what we call mega menu.
Okay.
Everybody's probably familiar by now in our SharePoint community with mega menu because it's a big giant mega menu. And then the other thing that we did is we built Microsoft Search into it because we're coming back to search again. It's AI driven. That allows for personalization. So now you can create these beautiful personalized sites.
Much more than just that standard template. Personalize it, make it feel less like SharePoint, less SharePointy, and more something that folks will want to visit.
It's not some IT admin sitting somewhere behind the scenes, in a dark bunker somewhere, just kind of dictating the flow of information as it works across that site. We leverage the AI tech that we've brought into Microsoft Search, and then you really get this great personalized experience. So it's going to be really cool. Oh,
it's great to see those innovations. Let's expand, make it more personalized, more friendly, something that folks are going to want to use again and again. A lot of folks do spend their whole day around SharePoint sites. We want to make sure that they have a great experience. Now, what about mobile, right? It's one thing to be able to do a little bit here with our SharePoint sites. Is there a great experience then for mobile?
Yeah, well, we've got a great experience for SharePoint, particularly in mobile. So we've got our SharePoint app, which is also another Microsoft Search endpoint. So not only can you use the app to find news and people and see the sites that you're interested in, those that are relevant, those that you're following, the documents you're collaborating on, but we have a new Find tab, which is really cool. That's powered by Microsoft Search to help you discover if you're on your mobile app. One of the things today is Microsoft Stream. Which
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It used to be Office 365 Video a while back. We rebranded it as Microsoft Stream. We showcased some of the mobile improvements we're making there. Capturing a video on your phone, adding polls to that video, being able to share out that video. So videos become more engaging, right? It's more immersive. You're not just sitting there watching something play. You're actually engaging with that video. You're participating in polls and quizzes. So it's really cool whether you're building something for employee training, right? You want to train somebody on like standards of business conduct, and you want to have a poll and you want to have a quiz, and you want to keep them engaged. So that way they're just not hitting the player and then they're going to walking their dog, and then they come back after 30 minutes. You can make these interactive polls and quizzes throughout that video.
So they have to answer, they have to advance things a little bit. And for those of you out there that are watching on SharePoint TV, make sure you use that chat room. It's right over here. Click through and let us know if you have any questions you want to ask. You want to ask Bill, you want to talk about with SharePoint. What are the great things that are happening that in your SharePoint community you want to share with us, you want to talk about? There we go, we got some other folks hosting us out there. That's CLW from Twilio, thank you so much. Corey Hurricane Weathers hosting the channel, thanks so much for the host. Oh my goodness, it's neat to see more folks joining in and tuning in here at SharePoint TV. So Stream though, right, it's not like Twitch, it's a little bit different, right, where folks are able to broadcast to just their community. It's not that public stream, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, they're able to broadcast to just their community, which is great for our customers in Microsoft 365, because effectively what they do want to create is they want to create channels within their organization, to feed information, back to people in the business. And like I said, a couple of use cases could be, You know, maybe you're just trying to create those kind of HR training type videos. Maybe it's new employee orientation.
Sure. Brown bag lunch, you want to discuss new features, you know, hey, we're going to change the way you file expenses. Let's talk about it. Here's an hour training video.
Yeah, and somewhat of, if you even think about it, more and more of our products are so deeply integrated that, you know, we have to work across business units in order to deliver these things. So, you know, you're seeing less people that are only fluent in SharePoint, only fluent in Azure, only, you know, so what we're seeing is we're seeing this amalgamation of skills, right? So, and in order to help do that, you need to train people, you need to bring people up to speed. Another great, you know, use case is, I particularly like with Stream and Yammer live events. I like to be able to just fire off a live event and really do my own like on-demand webinar, which is really cool, because webinars in the past, you were always finding a host for a webinar and you were always trying to figure, and what you were doing is you're patching together a bunch of tech, right? You wanted to use something for chat, you wanted to use something for video. By taking Yammer and Stream, pulling them together, being able to do live events, I mean, you can start broadcasting within 30 seconds. So you get this great idea in your head. You don't want to forget, you just start broadcasting, your webinar is out there, you can record it, you can engage with your audience, you know, much like we have a chat.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Here. So that's some really cool stuff as well. I mean, tons of great innovation today. We did a bunch on the security and compliance side, we did a bunch on the admin side.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing on the admin side that just got, you know, a 5-minute round of applause because it has, you know, tens of thousand user voice votes over the last...
I saw this and I was so impressed. Go for it.
So site rename, which is really cool. So it doesn't matter who you are. You've probably fat-fingered a SharePoint URL and not realized it until you've invited 20,000 of your closest friends to start collaborating. Much like I did when I created my Twitch handle today and used the wrong email address. You know, you have this tendency to just type something in wrong and then you realize it, but you typically don't realize it right until after everybody's already there, and then what do?
Right, they're all clicking through, writing that email back to you. Bill, this is the wrong address.
Exactly, or and you can't fix it. And then you know the other problem too is you might create a site for a product that you're working on. You start from a code name, right? You know, in SharePoint we started with like Tahoe and we worked our way up. I'm sure in Visual Studio you've probably had your own code names, and then you want to preserve that site. But you know, if you're new to the business, you just joined the company and you're trying to find something, that code name's probably not relevant to them. So
it's not relevant, but you've still got those folks that are wandering around constantly referring to it by that.
Exactly. So now you can rename. So as you progress throughout your development cycle or whatever, you can perform a rename, and it's super simple too, because you don't have to go into our management shell. You can do it right there from the admin center. So you can find yourself a site, you can click that site, you can choose change site URL.
It's where you expect it to be.
It's where you expect it to be.
Oh gosh.
Really cool part too is, the next question is I'm syncing documents with OneDrive, or I've already sent emails out to share a file that's on that site. You know, cool part is it's opaque.
Oh, so it'll propagate that change.
Yeah, so if somebody's got the old site bookmarked, or they bookmarked, they have a deep link all the way down to a document, doesn't matter, that old link will still work even if you change the site URL. OneDrive will continue to sync their documents. So that's really cool too. That was a huge announcement, and I know personally because it was about 1.5 years ago I updated the user voice entry to say we're working on it, and my inbox hasn't been the same since. Right? So
it's a great story of how Microsoft is listening to communities. We're listening to feedback. We're seeing the data, right? That folks saying this is really important to us, and making that adjustment. We're going to prioritize that feature and deliver it.
Yeah.
I think Music Monkey has a good question for administrative capabilities there. Is there going to be any monitoring tools to provide better alerts if there's a SharePoint outage?
Oh yeah, so one of the things that we've been working on is this idea of admin coherence. And that's been an ongoing process because as Office 365 grew into Microsoft 365, we started finding ourselves with a lot of duplicative controls. So a great example of which is if you think about, and I'm just going to put it in the context of search. That's because what I work on, and then we'll kind of round it out. But SharePoint has had its own settings page for search, and Exchange has had its own. And one of the things that this admin coherence journey that we're on is going to do is remove some of the redundant controls. And that's not necessarily removing. What we're going to do is up-level redundant controls to the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. Each endpoint or app or service will still have its own unique controls, because there's going to be controls unique to SharePoint, right? Part of that is also improving on, just the Microsoft to tenant administrator communications, and I think that's probably where Music Monkey's question's coming from, is that how we communicate with tenants, and we do that today through Message Center, largely when we're going to implement a change. But I think we hear you loud and clear on alerts and the status panel that you have in the admin center as you do that. And part of this coherence too is obviously we take a dependency on other things like Azure AD.
Certainly.
So pulling all of these things together so you're not flipping back and forth and just trying to figure out where do I need to go.
But the more and more I can get on one dashboard, have one place to have that high level maintenance, be able to manage what's going on is tremendous. Right. I think there's another question here along the same lines with changing sites. What about the tenant name? Can you change the tenant name also? Yeah,
so we've kind of got this rename roadmap, to say the least. So we started to make it super simple to rename files. That was kind of priority number one.
Yeah, you can do it on my operating system. Why can't I do it over here?
Exactly. So what most people would do is in the past, and it's been a while since you've been able to do this in SharePoint, but what most people used to do in the past is they needed to rename a file, they'd download a file, rename it, and then they'd upload the file again, delete the old file if they did it that way. We did site rename a long time, or not site rename, but
file rename.
Your file rename a long time ago. Lists, you've been able to adjust the title of list items. It's been relatively simple there.
Sure.
And then we did, today we announced site rename. We got a roadmap for tenant rename. So from a tenant rename perspective, you can expect between now and Ignite to hear more news about that. We've actually got it working. We've got about a dozen or more customers that are in a private preview program right now. So what we're effectively doing is we've got a small incubation program, some customers that have opted in. We're allowing them to do tenant renames. We're capturing any bugs that may arise as a result of tenant rename. The thing about tenant rename is that onion is a big onion, right? It's not a turnip like site rename was. I mean, this is a big onion, and we're peeling back a lot of layers. What's gotten us here is we introduced this thing called multi-geo to allow people to meet data sovereignty requirements across the world. So a single tenant can span multiple data regions. When you take your tenant, right, and you start to distribute it, the thing that we do is if you decide to expand into Europe, when you use multi-geo and you expand via multi-geo into Europe, we actually give you a new URL. So let's say you're Contoso in the US, you're Contoso-Europe. So so effectively what we've done there is a tenant rename. So we've learned a lot from that. We're going to start with site rename. We're going to nail this thing down, make sure that we've captured all the scenarios. And that we've addressed all the bugs. We've got a dozen or so customers in our private preview for tenant rename. So between now and Ignite, you can expect us to start accelerating some of the news around our tenant rename experience. So yep, definitely coming. Great question you had there.
Oh yeah, my gosh. And the interaction and the willingness of the organization to share some of those preview things to make sure that it's working well before we go and deploy, make it available to everybody. That's the way to go. We don't want to bring everybody down all at once. If something hasn't met the bar, we got to hit that quality bar for folks. Now, I see you brought some hardware.
Yep. Yeah, I did.
So MR, right? The mixed reality, the artificial, right? The virtual reality, augmented reality. There's some stuff happening with SharePoint.
Yeah. Now you're talking about things that I like because I work on them.
Okay.
Not that I dislike everything else, but so yeah, SharePoint Spaces. We talked about SharePoint Spaces today. We're continuing to expand our preview program. For those of you out there that are interested, if you just visit explore.sharepointspaces.com.
Okay.
Scroll all the way down to the bottom.
Can we browse to it? Maybe we can bring it up and show it here in the browser real quick.
Let me bring it up in the browser. I've got a tab ready. So we're just gonna pop in there real quick. Not the shortest URL in the world, and I'm not the best typist either. So barring no typing.
Go.
So basically, just to kind of give people a primer on SharePoint Spaces is about a year ago, we created this incubation program internally, and we partnered with our good friends with Babylon.js. And
yes.
We came up with this great idea to democratize mixed reality, because if you think about MR today and you're trying to create a space, pun intended, right?
Well, nobody wants to be in it by themselves.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're asking a lot of people, right? Do you know Unity? Do you know haptics? Do you know spatial mapping? Do you know how to manage occlusion? Do you know Babylon? And then you're asking people to assemble all of these polygons into something that actually makes sense. But so what we did with SharePoint Spaces is we had this idea, this kind of epiphany, that mixed reality should be for everyone.
Absolutely.
And the way that we started is our telemetry has showed us that more and more of our customers are storing 360-degree videos and images and models in SharePoint.
Really?
So,
okay.
What we thought is, SharePoint's 2D, it's flat, right? It was designed for collaborative documents. So the idea was, people are putting these models and these videos there, they should be able to use them.
Touch them, walk around them.
Yeah. So that's what they were designed for, so let's enable people to do that. So, again, we partnered with our friends in Babylon. We came up with this great solution. We built this web canvas. Creating a space is super simple. If you know how to create a page or a document in SharePoint, you can create a space as well. But yeah, if people want to get started, you can visit exploresharepointspaces.com.
Okay.
We built...
just looking at the website, it's right over there.
Yep.
See, it's...
Yeah, and you can explore some of the models that we have here. And this is all Babylon, so if you're not familiar with Babylon, you can check this out. Some of these models will pop up. Not on the Convention Center Wi-Fi, but it'll pop up. Yep. So you can manipulate this. You can manipulate it via browser. These actually aren't optimized for anything in particular. But if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of this page, you can do a couple of different things. One, show your interest in our preview program. You want to get started with Spaces now and start exploring what it can do and how it can benefit you. Just click on that little link right there down at the bottom. It's going to take you to a form.
Can you scroll it up just a little bit? Because our video is right in front of it there.
Let's see. It's right down there at the bottom now.
There you go. Now you can see it.
So it's right there below the video. Says show your interest. It's a quick form. We only need a couple of things from you.
Okay.
Tell us who you are.
Yep.
That's pretty important. Give us an email address where we can get back to you. Again, pretty important. Most importantly, tell us what you want to use Spaces for. We're interested to hear what you want to use it for. You got questions? We got our fancy little bot down here. Talk to our bot. Our bot will be glad to help. The most frequent questions is, what about HoloLens? So with Spaces, although we class it as kind of a mixed reality experience, we're further probably on the other end of the continuum. We're really on the virtual reality space, because today, what you're looking at is, like these right here, you're looking at a fully contained headset or fully immersive headset. This is one of the spatial computing headsets. It could be one of these HP headsets. It could be one of the Odysseys. We prefer 6 degree of freedom headsets. We also prefer tethered headsets, which just gives you the best performance. Just from a hardware perspective, for those of you that are probably asking, because the first question we always get is HoloLens. We do work well with our team in HoloLens, so definitely part of our plans. But theoretically, you can use stuff like the desktop stream utility, and you can grab yourself an Oculus Go. It'll work for smaller models. Obviously, if you have a model that's composed of hundreds of thousands of polygons,
you're pushing it.
Then you're talking about one of these, and you're talking Alienware.
But, a lot of hardware to push that.
Or an Omen.
And
you're at least going to need 1060 or 1080 to do a lot of our models for display. But really, what we want to be able to do is just allow anybody to create mixed reality space. Super simple.
And when the first time I heard about VR, MR with with SharePoint, I'm thinking, oh great, here's where my accountant is going to get to hang his Excel spreadsheets on the wall, be able to walk into the room and see, oh yeah, there's whatever, and see just, that's not it. It's get beyond two-dimensional. Let's do three-dimensional experiences here.
Yeah. Now, I mean, we've got, for SharePoint Spaces, we got a number of web parts. One of them is Power BI. I mean, you can slice and dice data. That's not, the scenarios.
I love Power BI.
The killer scenarios with Spaces are really your ability to create virtual tours, product catalogs. In today's keynote, one of the really cool ones is data center tours. Yes. So you want to explore like our Quincy data center. Yeah. You know, you could watch a video, or you could pop on a headset and you can walk down the hallway. Yes. And that's kind of where the 6th degree of freedom headsets work a little bit better. Because now you're actually, you can actually, you know, traverse that space, right? If you're talking about the 3DOF headsets, right, you've got a controller and you're just kind of, you're click stepping your way around and you're not getting all the pitch and yaw.
Right.
So, you know, the headsets are better than for just, you know, roller coasters.
Yeah, right? Or playing games, right? I want to actually experience going through a space, being part of it. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I mean, you know, if you want to see kind of the data center demo, you can go to Microsoft.com/SP as in SharePoint, VS as in Visual Studio or Virtual Summit.
Virtual space?
Yeah. So you can go to Microsoft.com/SPVS. You can check out a cool data center video.
Okay.
Again, you can go to Explore SharePoint Spaces. You can sign up for our preview. You can experiment with some of the models. Like right here, you see a car. One of my favorites. You know, what's kind of funny is we were building this model, and then about 3 years ago, you look at the front, almost looks like a Model 3.
Yeah. Right? Oh my gosh.
But and then, you know, coming back to your point, you said you like love Power BI. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure we've got something here. What we're trying to do is, you know, so, you know, here's, you know, the world that we're working in today is the flat world. So you're kind of looking at this flat world here, and you know, you can pull this back and forth, and you know, see what you're kind of see the evolution of your data. Down at the bottom, we've got some virtual tours, which is really cool. I'm in Vegas, so I'm already getting enough sun. You know, when I'm in Seattle, I just kind of throw on a headset and I sit there and I watch this video all day long. And then, you know, probably a lot of you that are already here on site with us have seen this lobby at one point or another.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And this is kind of that idea of having these 360-degree videos. And the great part about Spaces, though, is you know, it's not just enabling you to take your models and your videos and your images and just put them in SharePoint and experience them as they're intended to be experienced. They benefit from all the power of SharePoint. You can search them, but annotations and stuff, right? We're turning this stuff into a collaborative document. So, you know, now I've got these touch points, like I've got reception over here. So this is really cool.
So so when I do my search in SharePoint, I say, well, where's the reception area in the conference hall?
Search,
it can jump me right into that experience.
You can find these things, which is really cool. So we've got a couple short videos that'll help you learn out here. So really cool. And like I said, and then they all participate in our new search experience, which is kind of what's on the screen right now.
Very cool. Oh my gosh. Let's see, there was a comment, I thought I saw a comment here from Janesco, mixed reality Tesla. No, I don't, not intentionally. They just happen to end up looking that way. Yeah. So mixed reality coming into SharePoint, that's pretty cool. But what about OneDrive? And improving, there were improvements to the sharing experiences there and some of the things going on with OneDrive. Yeah,
I mean, on OneDrive, a lot of the cool stuff that we had talked about today is DLP policies. So cloud-connected experiences, we're enabling you to build some DLP policies around that OneDrive experience. One of the really cool things is differential sync. That's all I got to say.
Yes.
Differential sync. If I had a microphone, I'd drop it. If I try to drop this one, it's going to fall into my shirt and I'm going to trip over it.
One might say it's magical.
Yeah.
There you go. Hear those magic chimes. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. So differential sync means it's not going to download a brand new copy of my files each time, is it?
Right, exactly.
It's only going to bring a diff of those files. So I can minimize that change that happens.
So that's really cool. And then, you know, OneDrive again is another one of our endpoints.
Yeah.
So, you know, from a search perspective, it's just yet another one. So not only are you getting, you know, if you think about the way the announcements that we made at the keynote today, all of these things are kind of laddering up to one another. So it's, you know, not just about, hey, we've introduced some cool stuff like differential sync and a bunch of new DLP policy work in OneDrive. We've introduced Spaces into SharePoint. We've, you know, introduced this answer bot kind of concept into Yammer and live events and stream and Yammer. If you think about it, all of these things like collectively come together. There's a fabric that ties them together, whether that's Search Fabric or whether that's our MR Fabric. So, you know, all of these things are kind of getting pulled together. So there's a lot of affinity now. And if, you know, people think about the past, you know, there was kind of SharePoint, it was a discrete silo.
Yeah,
there was Exchange, which was a discrete silo. And, you know, now these things are just pulling closer to closer, and we're better to partner, you know, with the teams that are like Flow and Power Apps, our whole Power Platform. You know, pulling that into SharePoint to where we just make it super simple inside of a list, and we did that a while back to be able to create a flow or create an app.
I love that the Power Apps, right, they've grown, we've seen the development of them. Easy to create just those little data snacking apps that do just enough to be compelling and interesting for me. And Flow, I can trigger and do all kinds of really big things across the cloud from that little app without having to learn and having to code all the different things into the Power App. Great stuff. That coming back to democratization of features and technology. Let's enable those non-tech folks to be able to do really cool cloud scale things.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, that's kind of what the Spaces vision was. Is you know, like I said, if you think about it in the past, you wanted to create a mixed reality space. It was pretty isolated, right? You had to find an expert. You had to have the right software. Again, somebody that knew Unity, somebody that knew occlusion, and all of these different things.
All the physics around it.
Yeah, all the physics around it. And then the audience you could actually share your model with was pretty small too, because they had to have some specialized software. Sometimes it was hardware to be able to experience that model. Now you can imagine, you know, you're doing, you know, some kind of gene science. You can get these unique perspectives, right? There may be an admin sitting somewhere now that can see that model, and because of their unique perspective, their background, they can look at that and say, you know what, I have a great idea. Or it could be you're just designing a bike, right?
Oh, yeah, and as simple as a bike. My gosh, and everybody knows what a bike is made of.
Yep.
But be able to have that insight and say, what if we moved this?
Yeah, having that unique perspective, because, you know, maybe you know, their life circumstances enable them to have a different view on things, and they can say, you know what, if you know, put pedal here and a pedal here, it's going to work a lot better. So, you know, you can open up the world of data to more people. So it's really cool to that extent.
And hey, chat room, if you have any questions, if there's anything you want to talk about with SharePoint, let us know. Hop into that chat room box. Let us know what questions you might have for Bill, some of our future guests that are going to be coming on. Make sure you check out the list of guests just below our video here. And we want to hear from you. We want to talk to you. This is your opportunity to ask all the great folks around the community your questions. And let's dig in a little bit further about not just the announcements that are happening here, but some of the sessions and some of the great advancements that are happening around this tech.
Yeah.
So Teams is continuing to advance. We're seeing some cool stuff happen there.
Yeah, we're integrating more and more deeply into Teams. So file sharing, you know, within the context of these conversations, we're making a ton of improvements from a Teams perspective. So that's really cool and coming. And actually, again, we've got a demo on the Microsoft.com SharePoint Virtual Summit site. So a couple of quick little GIFs that can help you navigate, you know, what we're doing from a Teams perspective. But you know, one of the things that we're doing is file sharing inside of a Teams chat. It's really cool, a request file capability, which is really cool. You can see it right there on your screen. It's over on my left. Maybe you're right.
Right over there.
I don't know. Yep, right.
Yeah, there you go.
Over there. Good thing I don't have three hands. I'd be pointing all over the place. But you can see that. You can see that right there. You know, definitely check that out. We're making it a lot easier to collaborate both within and outside of the organization. Some new sharing experiences, and this applies, you know, universally, kind of across SharePoint and OneDrive. Teams is backed by SharePoint, so it's kind of that glue, that center of gravity. So we have this concept that we call external access expiration. So, you know, let's say you decide to, go ahead.
I was going to say that's something that I've struggled with, because I might be working on planning an event like maybe the SharePoint Conference, and I want to invite in a vendor or two and have them join my Teams channel. But when the event's over, we get, you know, we did our post-mortem the week after. Well, I want to expire their access.
Yeah.
You're done. You're not allowed here anymore.
Yeah, so what's really cool now is we're going to allow tenant administrators to kind of specify the duration at which a link can be shared externally. So the tenant administrator ultimately can say, okay, you know what, external sharing links should live for 60 days or 90 days or 180 days, whatever it may be. And then the site owner themselves has to reattest those
They'll get that
sharing
prompt,
links, right?
Like you get with Active Directory. It says, "Oh, are you still using this distribution list?" We'll get the same thing with Teams.
So yeah, so basically what they have to do is just reattest and that's pretty cool because it's a good balance because you're giving your tenant administrator the controls to be able to configure a timeline that's most appropriate for the type of information that their business shares. You're giving the site owner the opportunity to reattest because they're the people that are ultimately collaborating with these partners, these suppliers. So you need to be able to give some of that control to them. But the challenge has always been you're sharing externally and then project's over and you kind of just forget about it.
Yes.
Right?
I can't tell you how many Teams channels I have from this event 2018 and that event 2017. I'm like, we're not doing that thing anymore.
So that's some pretty cool stuff. And then
and along those lines, when I do bring those folks in, we have a question about private channels. So they're added to my team. Can I put them, have a vendor and just the folks that interact with that vendor in a private channel? Or is that something?
We announced private channel. It's been a couple of weeks since we've announced private channels, but all of these like file sharing capabilities and stuff we're doing, just because it's a private channel doesn't mean that it's excluded from participation in a lot of this work that we're doing. So. Private channels kind of have their unique purpose, and then like any other channel, but we're generally not going to target a capability for a specific channel unless there's an absolute need to do so. And a lot of our security and compliance investments, those are priority number one for us. So you're going to find those everywhere. They're going to be pervasive. They're going to be ubiquitous. It's just going to be there. We try not to treat each endpoint differently, but some of them are going to be very context centric.
Yes.
Because you've got conversations versus files, versus something else, and each one has to be managed differently. But
yeah, that's absolutely. I love how security has always been at the center of the story here, not just authenticating folks, but authorizing them appropriately to those various pieces of content. So file storage sounds like performance has improved significantly now. And we saw that performance for accessing data from Microsoft 365 10 times faster. Oh my gosh.
10 times faster, and your experience is 3 times faster, just overall.
Yeah.
So basically what we talked about today, and that was kind of the topic du jour, at least the keyword that was coming out of the keynote is, you were looking on Twitter and you were following our SPC19 hashtag, turbocharge.
Yeah.
So, everybody talked about turbocharging your file storage, and that's because one, accessing data 10 times faster. Your overall experience is 3 times faster. We've got over 320 file previewers.
Nice. Nice.
And that continues to grow. And then more responsive intelligence and insights. So again, here we come back to search again. So the content that you add or modify is searchable in seconds.
Right.
People have struggled with that in the past because there's always been a little bit of latency in respect to indexing.
Sure.
So people would say, "Hey, I uploaded a document 15 minutes ago and I can't find it. I can't search for it." Now you're searchable, pretty quick.
Oh yeah.
And then of course differential sync. So we're going to synchronize those large files significantly faster, and that's super important. And this is where I talk about this fabric pulling everything together.
Sure.
Talk about these large files. Well, guess what's a large file? 360-degree video, a model.
Yes.
Right? That's a large file. And we have 320 previewers. Some of those are engineering files, right?
Okay. Yeah.
CAD files, large file. So differential sync allows, for better performance when it comes to those things. So, it seems like everything that you've asked me about today, we kind of come back to where there's all these features interwoven across what we're doing.
And that really says something about the development team, the engineering team. As they're building these features, they're collaborating in the same way that we expect our customers to collaborate.
Yeah.
And they're delivering those features. It really feels that very eating your own dog food type of thing.
Yeah.
We need to be able to collaborate at this level so that our customers can as well.
Yeah, and you think about it, you know, these things that we're doing, that we're building products for our customers to be able to do. For us, it's just driving more engineering velocity.
Yes.
You know, doing things, being able to do things so much faster, so much more rapidly, but at the same time delivering that same quality that you would come to expect from our product releases, but being able to do that, you know, so much faster.
We're going to be our own worst critics by saying, you know what, this isn't fast enough for my team. You need to go improve it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh. If you've got many terabytes of video files, you can index those tremendously.
Yeah, I mean, you got many terabytes of video files, and like I said, Differential Sync is definitely going to help you on that. And if they're 360-degree, Spaces is going to help you with that. Search is obviously going to help you discover those. Stream is going to be a great place to host those. Live events driven by Yammer and/or Streams is going to be a great place to take those videos, turn them into webinars, allow people to engage so you can talk to your audience. You know, obviously you're going to be able to browse there quicker because you know, just responsiveness in general is 3 times faster. So, you know, like I said, you can kind of see all these things come together, which is really cool. And I think, you know, a lot of that came through
during that keynote?
During that keynote this morning. So it wasn't just, there weren't like these hard stops in these sections and this kind of, you know, context switching, you know, that you would have seen, you know, 10, 15 years ago, because each product was kind of its own little silo.
Yes.
It lived on its own little island, and you know, now you still have products, you still have SharePoint, you still have Onedrive, you still have Stream, you still
Teams, Yammer,
but you know, all of them are taking, you know, the best from their partners and incorporating that, and you know, to everything that they do, which is kind of the really cool thing, you know, to see. It's kind of, you know, it's like I said, you know, coming back to some of those search experiences, like home sites. You know, taking the best of what search can do to really add an element of personalization to your home site experience.
Very cool. Now, as we look forward, right, we know there's going to be more big announcements coming at Ignite in the fall.
Yep.
What can we expect to see happen here over the summer?
Well, you know, today we're not even done with announcements.
Oh.
You know, so keynote was, you know, the keynote kind of set the stage for the remainder of this week. We've got in the keynote, you know, bar it being 15 hours, we would have gotten all the announcements in there. Man, we must have sent out about 26 pages of blog posts today just to kind of capture some of the announcements from the keynote alone.
Sure.
So you know, we've kind of written our own literary work. This We've compiled this list of announcements that we landed at 9 a.m. Corresponding with our kickoff of the keynote. Right. But we've got a ton more of announcements. And actually, you know, here on SharePoint TV, we're going to be talking to some of our dev leads, because we had, immediately after our keynote, we had a developer keynote. I think Jeff Teeper said, you know, today that we're going to, you know, stay tuned for the world's greatest, you know, developer keynote for. Particularly for SharePoint and OneDrive and beyond. So we had our great developer keynote. We're going to be talking to that team. They'll be coming in this week to talk to us about some of their announcements, give us some really cool demos.
Yeah, we definitely need to see, and that's something that developers can really appreciate, when you see somebody else that can go deep on that content and speak to all the nitty-gritty that's going on. So that, great stuff. We want to make sure we share that with you here.
Yeah, we definitely got that one. We're going to be talking about some of our search APIs a little bit later this week. We'll be talking about some of the administrative experiences. We're going to go really deep here. Also on the site rename, the tenant rename, we're going to be going really deep on that, showing you how it works, getting some demonstrations on that. We've got some stuff that's SharePoint yet not SharePoint. So for those of you that are out there and you're like, you know what, I want to see some cognitive services stuff.
Yes.
We've got some cool cognitive services stuff coming up. We've got some Azure Function stuff. We've got some great stuff coming around.
You're speaking my language here. Cognitive services and Azure Functions, they're right up my alley.
So yeah, I mean, we've got just a whole host of content coming up. And we've also got great chats with our engineering leaders. We've got Omar, we've got Adam Harmetz, we've got Jeff Teeper.
Oh yeah.
So we really get a unique perspective on some of the announcements that we made today. Great chats with some of these presenters.
Very cool. All right. And we're going to be getting ready for our next guest in just a little bit here. Gosh, Do we have a demo of the SharePoint sites we can show real quick before we go?
Let me kind of browse around. I think I'll pop in first to search, and then I'll see if we can use that to just kind of navigate our way around.
Okay.
So kind of walking top down, and you know, we've got our next guest coming up, so I'll try to be brief.
Sure.
First thing you'll notice about search is, you know, your question maybe is, hey, how do I know if I have Microsoft Search yet? We're towards the end of rolling it out to targeted release. Starting next week, it's going to start rolling out to everybody else.
Okay.
First clue: search box moves to the middle of the screen. Super simple.
Of course.
So regardless of what app or service you're in SharePoint, you're in OneDrive, you're in Outlook, you're going to see that search box move to the header, a prominent place to where front and center, easy to find. Zero intent is kind of the next thing. What's zero intent? So I just click in the search box and I'm already getting stuff. Right? and it's relevance. It's relevant to me as well. So there's contextual relevance to this. So these are files that are either shared with me, recently worked on. You can see news. I can start searching in and I can find files. Really cool. I go to office.com, you know, I'm sitting in SharePoint, I can perform these really cool searches. I go to office.com, right here in my discovery feed, recent files I've been working on, files, if I have any pinned, the files that are shared with me, but then I have discover, that stuff that's trending around me that I otherwise would have forgotten about, not been able to find. You've got SharePoint down here at the bottom. I can perform searches up here as well, so I can see, you know, my applications, you know, most frequently used. No surprise, Outlook.
Yeah. Oh, we love our email.
Got my files. I can drill into the people that I work with. You know, and this evolves over time because, you know, depending on who you're working with. So, you know, perhaps Lydia is one of those people. Pop right into Lydia. Go to Files. See the files that Lydia and I have collaborated on because Lydia shared them with me. So I have access to those. Email exchanges we may have had. Meetings. So I can quickly get back to those meetings. Any attachments that we may have, so really easy, you know, to connect across the organization. You know, very similarly, I can pop into Outlook. I'm going to have that exact same SharePoint experience. You know, maybe I want to get started on a presentation. You'll notice search box right there in the header. Recommendations, create a new presentation. Discovery feed is right there. So whether you're in the office.com start page or you're in the start page for the applications themselves.
I can't tell you how many times I've had a conversation with somebody in a Teams channel, and maybe there's a document that we've spun out from there, and I need to link them back together. Seeing how that instant search is able to bring those topics together really feels like something that I'm going to benefit from in my day-to-day work going forward. Yeah,
so you'll definitely benefit from that. And that was just kind of a quick lap around the around that search piece. Just kind of give you know, obviously we're doing stuff like machine reading comprehension and a bunch of cool stuff, but we're going to be talking about that later in the week as well. So you're definitely going to get an opportunity to see that. And then of course, you know, the SharePoint Admin Center stuff where you're going to be able to do your rename sites, kind of recap that for people. You're going to get a nice new little pop-up to let you know that we've taken the classic features and we've brought them into the new modern Admin Center, so you don't have to switch back and forth between two admin centers.
Two different websites.
So you can see you're going to get a little prompt to get started. You can come in, pop into your sites. So I've got a bunch of sites over here. I can choose, you know, one of my sites. Very simply, I can rename it. I can perform hub site associations. I can see what kind of site it is. You know, whether it's a communications site or otherwise. If I need to rename it, I can do that there as well. So, but like I said, you know, fortunately what we've, you know, been able to do is grab all of these great speakers from the keynote, from our dev keynote, bring them in throughout the week, and then just have them go deep on each one of these things.
Certainly.
But, you know, definitely this afternoon here in Las Vegas, kind of kicking SharePoint TV off. Give you a quick lap of what some of those announcements look like, get started, you know, get everything rolling, kind of lay the framework for the rest of the week.
Absolutely.
And then start bringing in some of these great presenters and start diving deep on some of this stuff.
Absolutely. We know you want to learn a little bit more about it. Get that deep dive, and I think we're gonna get ready for our next guest.
Yep.
I think they're in the next room over, and I think we'll go to a waiting screen. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
With our first guest, Omar.
Yep.